What's up? What's up? It is that championship show. We're trying to take that championship lap, letting people know what's what. Um, we might be gloating a little bit, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe we will. Who cares? Eagles fans deserve it. And the players played their asses off. We got a lot of. This is going to be a real fun show, as it always is, but even funner because we're taking our parade, if you will, and I think we should do grades because they're championship grades, and I think they'll be quick. And why the hell not? But I'm the Godfrey. You know who I am. In my corner, above me to the left, you got the NFL genius. Then you got Cool McCain up here on the right from Eagles Elite Podcast. And listen, we're doing our thing here, and it's time to get it on. I just love where we're sitting at right now. I got to go to. I'm the only one that got to represent the parade. Fortunately, Gene chose the home route. Cool got stuck. He had to do some things, and I walked down there, so I got to celebrate with y'all. And we all celebrate in our own way. But what were you guys amazed by the amount of people at the parade? I mean, I knew a lot would show up, but do you feel like it was bigger than the first one?
It wasn't bigger than the first one.
I don't feel like it was.
1.4 million at the first, a shade over 1 million at the second.
Yeah.
What shocked me about the crowd was everyone I talked to that went down to the first parade, like all like friends and people I knew that went down to the first parade, did not go to the second parade. They were just like, nah, I did that before. I want to watch it on TV. And like, I don't feel like standing outside in the cold for 8 hours. Just not my vibe.
Way colder last time, by the way. The first time, way colder, but
it was. My point being is, I did not think that they would get 1 million people. I was texting Showie. I said 400, 500,000 is what you're going to get at this parade. And they had their estimated number is a shade over 1 million people went there. And I'll be honest with you, man, just from watching it on TV and from what I remember the first one, they need it. They need a speaker. Like, I love the Eagles. They need a speaker. That was some terrible speeches. Like, I'm sure the parade was fun, but those speeches were awful.
Well, Kelsey set the bar really high. It was going to be hard for anybody to come across to kind of cap that. I mean, I didn't know who was going to do it. I thought I would have heard a little bit more from certain individuals, but that's just not who they are. And they were kind of celebrating too. Half of them were probably drunk because they were drinking all the way up the Broad Street. So, I mean, it could have been a lot crazier, but I thought it'd be around 1 million, maybe a little shade under, because the thing I thought about that was going to be an influx and kind of help, cancel out those people that didn't come is my nephew, for example, is 24. He wasn't able to go to the first parade. So this was his first parade. So he was jazzed up about it. So I went and met him up with him the night they won. And then he was out. He just moved to South Philly. So, there's a lot of people that were not old enough to participate in it, or their parents didn't give them off from school. Some school districts closed, which I thought was pretty cool. Some didn't. Some people had to work. But I do think you're right, though, Gene. The first one was more of a like seminal or monumental moment where it was waited so long for the fan base. I heard stories of people flying from halfway around the world to make that parade. Good. Like, and then I did hear a lot like, yeah, it was cool the first one. I'm just going to chillax at home here and do my thing. And I always wondered how that would be once we get to the second Super Bowl and we get the ones, in the future years, like how will the fervorness of like going to the parade will be. And I do think it will wind down a little bit. I mean, I haven't looked at other cities where they've gone through a streak, but Eagles are on a good run here in the last 7 years. I think we can all agree, overall, outside of, another team that's won 3 bowls, but I'll take 2 out of the last 7 years.
You know what that game proved to me? And I'm sure Cool would agree with this. I know he will agree with that. You know what that game proved to me? That field absolutely screwed us 2 years ago. Because there's no chance in hell. You're on mute. I can't hear your volume. But there's no chance in hell that the Eagles would have lost it. And I didn't know this. And maybe Cool did. Maybe you knew this, Godfrey. I didn't know that the Chiefs offensive lineman went to the parade wearing no sacks, put that on a T-shirt. And when Lane Johnson, what? Zero sacks. And and I remember CJ Gardner-Johnson tweeting about it in July, and it got a lot of recognition when he goes, run that shit back on natural grass, and we whooped their ass. We put belts to ass. And I I think everything that I projected of that game was absolutely correct. The Eagles' defensive line absolutely abused the offensive line of the Chiefs. And I'll say right now, it's not a good day in the world of Mike Caliendo. And what I mean by that is I didn't really catch this live. I was so fired up. But when I watched it the second time, I realized what the Eagles were doing. It was really slick. Mike Caliendo was the weak link of that Chiefs offensive line for that Super Bowl. They should have put Joe Thuney back at left guard and tried something else at left tackle, because what the Eagles did, which I thought was really interesting, is they went across the line most downs with Sweat, Milton Williams, Carter, Nolan Smith in that order. So they made the Chiefs make a choice. You either double Jalen Carter with Creed Humphrey, or you double your weakest offensive line, which was Mike Caliendo, on Milton Williams. And more often than not, the Chiefs chose to double Carter, which is why Milton Williams had such a day, because Caliendo got buried in that football game. But it was beautiful. We can give grades. I'll give them out A. Well, no, I'm lying. I got 2 A's. There's something I'm not giving an A. But I'm fired up. Cool. What's your thoughts, bro? Did you know about that shirt before?
I did. That's one of the reasons I hate the Chiefs so much.
I didn't.
I didn't know about it beforehand.
Yeah, somebody posted pictures in a couple of my groups. And
I was so heated after the last Super Bowl. I don't know if I looked at many pictures on, but go ahead.
I'm sure you did not, sir. I'm sure you did not.
I didn't know about it either, man. That was the first time I saw it. I wish that I got to see that footage of them speaking the night before the Super Bowl, before the game, because I would have I bet the Eagles -9. I would have went higher, because the way they were talking, maybe I'm being biased here, but they were talking with determination and conviction. And I suspected it's about Jalen, maybe not the whole team, but definitely parts of the team that were in that game. They kept that with them ever since that loss. You could tell by the way they talked.
Jalen Hurts' screensaver was confetti flying down on him from when they lost. You know he was focused.
Yeah.
You see when he walked by the screen before the game and everybody picked the Chiefs, and he just kind of looked up like, okay, when he was going to do interviews at Super Bowl media days, I was like, yeah, y'all are really awakening the emotions of a dude that don't have emotions. That's not a good idea for you guys.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
so can I 9 minutes? Can I have the first negative comment of the Super Bowl celebration?
Oh my God. How? What is it? What is it?
I have a negative comment to put in. I actually think the Eagles' offensive game plan was terrible. I truly believe the Eagles' offensive game plan was awful. Now let me kind of break that down for you so you just understand a little bit more. I think the players played great. AJ Brown played great. Jalen Hurts played great. Saquon Barkley did what he could. I think the Eagles' offensive line had great pass protection. I'm just trying to all right. So in order to run the ball against the Chiefs, you cannot play bunch. You cannot play bunch. Seth Joyner talked about this. I completely agreed with him. I broke it down. I've seen how the Pittsburgh Steelers ran against them, the Buffalo Bills. You cannot run the ball out of bunch formations versus the Chiefs. You have to get their corners and their safeties to commit to what they're doing. The Eagles tried to run out a bunch so often, and it was so like once again, during that game, I just did not see a lot of plays schemed open. I seen players making plays, but I did not see like people schemed open. I think their offensive game plan was bad, if I'm being real with you. And I'm not the only thing I'm upset about with the Kellen Moore taking the Saints job is the promoting from within. But I think that was by far the weakest link of our team was our offensive game planning. I'll give the defense all the credit in the world. They absolutely dominated. I don't know any offensive team that would have lost that game on Sunday. That defense absolutely was just balls to the wall, incredible. I'll give that credit. I think Jalen played great. I think AJ played great. I think Devontae played great. I don't like the game plan. So I'll be real.
Well, I think that the Eagles already realized that the Chiefs were going to do everything in their power to not allow Saquon Barkley to be the one to beat them. So they were basically like, we know we're not going to get a lot of running yards from Saquon this game. We're going to basically use him as a decoy. Mm-hmm. And I think they did that very exceptionally. I think they were basically like, we're going to use formations that we know are not good for run. We're going to run out of them and we're going to throw out of them. Was it the best game plan they could have came up with? Absolutely not. But Kellen Moore did a better job than the doofus that looks like his head got dumped in the toilet every day from elementary school on through college when he knew he was leaving to go to another team. So I'll give Kellen Moore credit for at least. Yeah, I don't like to say his name. He doesn't deserve his name to be spoke. But I think that it was a simple, basic game plan. But when you have the talent that we have, you can make it look better. But I think I would have rather had that than him trying to do something real cute and then screw us over and have bad things happen. So I don't think it was the greatest game plan, but good enough. Especially
that I don't really have a problem with their game plan offensively. There was a lot of short field and a lot of position, where they had good position. They put the points on the board. I think Saquon, all week you heard all we have to do is stop Saquon. You heard it from analysts. You heard it from opposing fans. All you have to do is stop Saquon, right? But here's the thing about it. A stat that I think doesn't get talked about enough. He had 6 catches in the game. 1 catch on most of the yards. Now, did they produce a lot of fruit on the catches? No, but it had to keep the defense honest because if you were going to blitz, you're going to have to pick your poison at that point. And they're scared of him taking one to the house. So they're splitting him out wide. That's the most catches he's had and targets all year in any game. Okay. He never had anywhere close to 6 catches in any of the game all year. And he led the team in catches. 6 for 40, I believe. I think 40% of that was on the 1 catch that took him down the field on the right-hand side. So, it was more of a keep you honest play. I think it was more strategy there. I think, there was some bravado toward the end. I mean, if you see the clip with Sirianni and Moore, and he's like, yeah, go for it with that Devontae Smith map. Let's do it. And they did it. And they beautifully executed it. They had him reeling at that point. Not, stats wise, it wasn't great, but overall, I think Saquon had a really good game and his impact is undeniable. I mean, I think him and Jalen are way more effective when both are on the field. I mean, we got to see Saquon had decent games, or he still did kind of well when Jalen Hurts wasn't there, but I think it's easier for people to key in on Saquon when Jalen Hurts isn't on the field because they don't have to worry about him. And they said, all right, you want to do that? No problem. Here's my 70 yards. Most Super Bowl rushing yards ever by QB. Take that, Chiefs. So, pick your poison, right? I mean, and I think Jalen had some of the most timely runs. Now, obviously, they weren't calling that on most of the plays, but it kind of worked out that way. I didn't have a problem with the game plan. They're getting triple A's across the board, and you can become a triple A member with the Eagles. No, I'm just joking. That actually is something they do, but I'm giving triple A's. I'm not, I was very happy. I would like to see more for Saquon. My score was pretty close. I didn't think it was going to play out that way. I thought the way it played out toward the end, where they got garbage points, I saw that happening. But I didn't see the Cooper DeJean pick 6, and I didn't see the Zach Bond amazing interception. That I was not forecasting. I was forecasting more of a Saquon dominant run game, actually, even though I knew they were going to key on him. I thought he'd be able to get through it, and I thought that was going to be more of the case, but that wasn't. And I'm okay with that. I mean, the defense was ridiculous. I mean, I don't think Jalen Carter, I think he had one of those games where, like, you see his impact on the field, but it's not necessarily showing up on a stat sheet type of thing. But Milton Williams was definitely breaking free because, as you said earlier, they had to worry about Jalen. So it was like, pick your poison. And what a long way Milton has come. I mean, people were, including myself, were down on him when he first picked. They called him T-Rex, I believe was his name. That he had tiny arms and
short arms.
Short arms. And that dude, listen, man, I was like, why this guy? Why pick him? Listen, he showed up. Some dudes play against or across some guys like Jalen Carter, and they still can't get it done, right? You still have to get it done. You know what I mean? I was amazed. That pick by Zach Bond was ridiculous, where he stretched out and caught it. I just was like blown away by that. I mean, the instincts that he's shown all year, I don't know how they plucked him and said, you know what, this is our guy. And I got to give credit to a lot of people for checking their egos, because some general managers on some teams would be like, oh no, you're playing this guy that I just signed for a lot of money. You know what I mean? And they played the best player. Nolan Smith, I mean, that kid, he plays bigger than he is. It's amazing. Like, he plays bigger than he is actually weight-wise. You to see him the way he hits guys that are bigger than him, it's like, it's kind of astounding. Have you guys seen that on film? Just the way he hits dudes at impact on the line, you're like, wow. And they're bigger than, and he's stunting them. Like, they're like, I love watching Nolan Smith play.
I'm just get the whole team an A. I mean, Dean's point, I mean, if you want to single out, you could give us a little slightly lower grade to the offense, a little laziness maybe in the game plan, but I'm just going to get a team A. I'm going to say overall, they definitely carried by the defense. Offense did what needed to be done. But shout out to Jake Elliott. My man was out there like 4 hours before the game, kicking, going through the motion, getting himself right to make sure I'm not going to be the reason we lose this game. And, I think that's –
I was nervous
about kickers a lot unless something bad happens. But he had some trouble in the playoffs, but I'll give it to him. In that particular situation, my man did not have no trouble. He got the job done. Shout out to Jake Elliott as well. I'm going to get special teams an A with that too.
I was nervous about him. I mean, I really, really was. I was like, oh, shit.
If you weren't, you're a fool. So
I was like, yo, can this dude please make a field goal? Because I just, he has historically been good indoors, but still, I mean, he's not one to miss. When you see a kicker start missing extra points, you start to worry about him. That's the thing.
Yeah, historically good. I feel you, CJ, but when you start as a kicker, when you start missing kicks, a lot of times it's hard for you to turn that around. And he turned it around for the Super Bowl, indoor, outdoor.
So when I watch that football game, I'll break it down very simple. The Eagles' defensive line, rushing 4 people the entire game, absolutely abused the Chiefs' offensive line. Patrick Mahomes was seeing ghosts. They made him look very pedestrian. They dropped 7 people in the coverage. And you know what the craziest part about looking at this Philadelphia Eagles team? They're not going to get worse. They're not going to get worse. I got news for you, bro. The salary cap just went up $25 million. They have $19 million to play with. I'm going to tell you something right now. Be prepared to be one of the most hated teams in football, because the Philadelphia Eagles are going out and trade for Myles Garrett. And you're going to be like, what? How? I think they don't re-sign Sweat. I don't think they re-sign Milton Williams. And I think they get Myles Garrett in a trade. And I think
the thing is, the rumor is that if we're going to trade him, they want one of our young studs. And I don't want to give up any of the young studs for Myles Garrett.
I hear what you're saying. I think that they end up giving him a first, a second, a third, and Jesus, what's the quarterback's name? Not Kenny Pickett.
Ballberry.
What?
Throw Ballberry in there too.
Yeah, no, I think that you're going to give him a first, second, third, and the quarterback. I don't know why I'm dancing on his name right now. Tanner McKee. I think McKee will. I think McKee will actually be in that trade to compete for a starting job. But no, I think Pickett actually gets traded to the New Orleans Saints. Don't get it twisted. I think he does.
I rock with that.
You think of a trade him to the New Orleans Saints?
I do. I think that you have the head coach Kellen Moore that already knows the system, and he will bring him in to compete for a quarterback starting job.
I wouldn't mind if we signed Jameis as the backup.
I don't know about that. He's a turnover machine.
When he's in the game, just hand off the ball and let him run.
I look at the end of the day, I think that the Eagles are going to be better, and I'll make the statement here, just like I made on Wire to Wire, just like I made on Sideline to Sideline. Sorry, if you think I'm an Eagles homer, it's fine. This is quite possibly the greatest team ever assembled of all time. I just want to be very clear when I say that.
It is hard to find a better team offensively and defensively than this team.
You mean overall?
Yeah, overall, best team ever.
Offensively and defensively.
It's tough.
So let me ask you.
You have a lot of teams that are great on one side of the ball or the other, but this team has such a great mix.
Godfrey, give me an example.
We're talking ever.
Ever.
Out of Super Bowl champions.
Example. Yeah, well, yeah.
Ever.
Ever.
I think the greatest show on turf was a pretty damn good team.
Okay.
That
Offensively, they were great.
Broncos team that won was a really, really good team all the way around. I'm talking about the one that beat the Packers on the Packers' second leg.
1997. You mean the one that were 5-point underdogs versus Packers? Got it.
Yeah, but I mean, so were the Eagles underdogs too. What's your point?
No, my point being is this Eagles team won 18 football games.
Right.
18 football games, and they won their last two by
could have won more.
Blowouts. They won their last two by absolute blowouts. Did they have a top 5 running back in the league, Godfrey?
Who? The Broncos?
Did the Eagles have a top 5 running back in the league?
Oh yeah.
Did the Eagles have a top 5 receiving core in the league?
Yeah, sure.
Did they have a top 5 offensive line in football?
Probably one.
Do they have a top 5? Do they have a top 5 quarterback in football?
Yeah.
Did they have the number 1 defense in football?
They did for sure.
Okay, so you give me a team that competes with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I think overall
could be the greatest team ever.
I don't know if I could say, but you could make a strong argument for it. I could be convinced. I mean, that they did that. I don't know. Did we feel that way? Will we feel that way going into the Super Bowl? I don't think anybody did. That's cementing it for most people, would it not? I mean, we're talking about Super Bowl champions here. There were some questions we all had, but I felt pretty confident about the Eagles winning. And it wasn't because I was being a homer. I was looking at the teams, how they lined up schematically, who had better players, and what they would be able to do. And, the thing I know about the Chiefs is people have a recency bias, or sometimes they think of the past. And the Chiefs that were able to come back and create points instantly with a Tyreek Hill and guys like that, they don't have people like that. They get behind, they're cooked. The problem is teams played them like wusses. They played them, so conservatively sometimes where they're like, oh, we don't want to give them the chance to blow us out. They weren't doing that. And you saw that all year where if you let them hang around, they would sneak it away from you. But the Eagles went in to knock the champ out, and that's what they did. The thing about you talk about top 5 quarterback, I kind of want to bring this up. Not necessarily the conversation of where Jalen ranks, but more so the conversation of, I find it funny. Like I said this 2 weeks ago, when you bring pressure up the middle, I don't care who the quarterback is, it will destroy your game plan. And that's what the Eagles did. They had pressure up the middle. They had pressure come from all areas. They played the run well. Kareem Hunt's not a strong enough running back to command the run game like he could be back in the day. And I hear people talk about, well, if Jalen didn't have a good offensive line, I'm like, well, Patrick didn't have a good offensive line. What happened to him? Right? Like most quarterbacks with a bad offensive line against a good defense, we'll say an above average defense are going to have trouble, especially when it's coming from up the middle, and I've heard this conversation of the most egregious one I've heard is Baker Mayfield could have been on the Eagles and won the Super Bowl, and I wanted to throw up from my mouth, like projectile vomit, as soon as I heard that.
I don't know if you can throw up all you want. I think Baker Mayfield could have won a Super Bowl with this Philadelphia Eagles team.
That's wild.
You can say what you want to say, bro.
I'm going to tell you why he couldn't have.
Let me ask you a question real quick. What game in the playoffs would Baker Mayfield not have won that Jalen Hurts won? I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield's better than Jalen Hurts. He's not. But, come on, let's be honest with ourselves. This team is generational.
I am being honest with ourselves. I see how.
Why does that make you throw up then? They won it every playoff game off the backbone of outside the Super Bowl, off the backbone of their running game.
Mm-hmm. And we're talking about the Super Bowl specifically, not the playoff games.
Bro, I'll tell you right now, you might have been able to win the Super Bowl quarterback the way that defense was playing. I'm not. Dude, it was 34-0.
But you got to think about turnovers. One of the things about Hurts for me is that he's definitely alleviated the turnover. So when you can alleviate the turnover, a lot of these guys, they will give the turnover, and a turnover can be a momentum breaker.
But he turned the ball over.
I don't know, Gene, as he did into the schematics of the game as you are, how you can say that. If they were facing Baker Mayfield, they don't have to respect his legs. They could blitz him and tee off him in way easier than they could. They don't have to make that choice with Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield also led the league in interceptions, I believe, at 16.
Right. So that's the point I was getting at. Hurts did have one turnover, but Mayfield probably would have given you multiple in that game.
Do you think he would have gave you 70 yards running, Baker Mayfield, on 10 carries?
I don't.
Doesn't
I
that
just
open
think
up
that
the
he-
lanes? Doesn't that make them
That
have to
would be
make
no
choices?
trick push with Baker Mayfield
he
either.
was
Are they
proof.
spying him?
Yeah, I remember that too. I'm just
Baker
saying.
Mayfield played against this Chiefs team this year. I just hope you understand that. Like,
Okay.
he did offensively with a receiver core very similar to the Philadelphia Eagles, and the defense not as good. And they lost 30-24. And he threw the ball. He threw for 2 touchdowns and didn't have a turnover. You're acting like this guy is just an absolute scrub. To say it
No,
makes you
I'm
throw
not
up
saying
in
he's
your
an
mouth.
absolute scrub. I'm not
He's
saying he's an
not.
absolute. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm
Baker
saying
would have won the Super Bowl with this Eagles team. Jordan Love would have won the
No.
Super Bowl with this Eagles. I'm telling
no,
you.
no.
I'm not going to agree with that.
So you
No.
think the gap between Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield and Jordan Love is just that wide that they would have won the game? They wouldn't have won the game at all. They
When
won
I
the
look
game
at
by 18
when I look at
fucking
Jordan
points.
Love, I look at him as an individual. When they played their games, they were run first a lot of the times this year. Okay.
And the
I look-
Eagles weren't.
Right. But let me finish here. The Eagles are a run first team. But when I see Jordan Love have to throw certain times, he's effed. And I don't see his mobility as the same as Jalen. I just don't see it. I don't see the durability there. He gets
Yeah, but
hurt.
mobility isn't the only thing, bro.
Mobility
Not
plays a
just
huge part
mobility.
in how you can defend the quarterback. Listen, so
So Joe
People say-
Burrow wouldn't have won the Super Bowl with this Eagles team, right?
Joe Burrow can get rid of the ball quicker than most quarterbacks, like that. So he has that advantage right there. I could tell you that Josh Allen would have had success. You know, I could tell you Mahomes would have had success on the team. They would have did that.
Bro, if Mahomes was the Eagles quarterback, they would have went 35-0.
Yeah, well,
There's not
listen,
even 35 games.
but my point is you can schematically, as a defensive coordinator, do a lot more blitz packages when your guy that you're facing off is not mobile. We've seen it in the playoffs. What happened to Jared Goff?
Jalen was the worst quarterback in football picking up the blitz this year.
You picked it up in that game.
He didn't, though.
You
You know
didn't?
what happened in that game? Saquon Barkley made one of the best blocks you'll ever see on that Jahan Dotson play. But other than that, he got blitzed multiple times. He threw an interception. He took a couple sacks. I'm not saying Jalen played bad. Jalen played very good.
Mhm.
The checks at the line were good. But for us to pretend that only Lamar, Joe Burrow, Mahomes, and Allen would be the only 4 quarterbacks that would have won the Super Bowl with that Eagles roster, it's just asinine. I like her too. I have
disagree.
him fifth.
I
So
disagree.
I'm gonna say I don't think Lamar would win because Lamar has shown a propensity
To live in the middle.
So I don't think he would have won even with this Eagles team because of his personal stuff. He got to get a way to get through. I think he has the talent, but I think he has something going on when he's playing those guys. And I feel the same way about Josh Allen.
Josh Allen shows up short too in those big moments. He has against Patrick
Talent is
Mahomes.
one thing, but certain teams just have your number. And I think the Chiefs are a team that have Lamar Jackson, I'm about to mix him up, and Josh Allen's number. So I don't even think
Call
if you
him
give
Lamar
them this team that they necessarily, it's a given that they would win. I feel the same way about Baker Mayfield and Jordan Love. I'm not saying that there's impossible. I'm not throwing up that people say it. I don't think it's impossible, but I don't think it's a given to say that you put anybody else in this team and also automatically they're going to be good because the guy may be a better thrower, but a lot less as a runner, scrambler, and those things.
People say that. So if it was a 35-30 game,
TJ,
would that have been the same thought?
If somebody says there's 15 quarterbacks that could have won with this, that's blasphemy. There's
I
not
don't
15
think it's blasphemy.
quarterbacks.
I agree with him.
That's crazy.
I know that you agree with him.
And my
And I think
grandfather,
both-
and my grandmother had
that's
balls,
blasphemy.
she'd be my grandfather. Like, I mean, it's like
That's
you got
blasphemy.
a lot of people think like football is Madden. That is Madden speak. That is blasphemy. Like
It's not Madden, bro.
that is people playing their
Blasphemy.
Madden card saying, "I'll put my guy on this all-star team." It just doesn't work like that.
All right. Let's
Leadership
stop.
goes into it. Intangibles go into it. How
So
people
Stafford
respond to
wouldn't have
each
won
other
with
go
this
into
team?
it.
Stafford wouldn't have won the Super Bowl if he was quarterback.
No,
No.
because Stafford was 2
No.
or 3 interceptions. Stop it.
No, come on.
No, I'm not. No.
He
Stafford.
can't move. Like, listen, Patrick Mahomes is a
Stafford.
mobile quarterback, and he's very hard to beat. He can move in the pocket, outside the pocket when he has to.
The
He showed it all
quarterbacks
the time.
aren't playing defense. It was 34-0, Godfrey. 34-0.
So if
Where-
it was 34-30,
defense
is it a
scored
different
one
argument?
touchdown.
He
The rest
still
of the
won.
touchdowns were scored by the offense. Short fields or not, they still had to make plays. Do we get the running touchdowns with Matthew Stafford from Jalen Hurts? Heck no. Come on, man.
Or the tush push into the end zone? No.
I just can't, bro.
I mean, not everybody can do the tush push. We've seen that.
He's 17 to 22 for 221, 2 touchdowns. He's 11 carries for 72 yards and 1 touchdown. He had 293 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He took 2 sacks. He had a 75.4 quarterback rating, and we were acting like no one else would have won.
So he didn't play on any short fields. He didn't play on any short fields.
It's not just stats. You always
play on any short fields.
I get stats make a difference at points, but it's not just stats. Did you even listen to Godfrey? Godfrey told you leadership is intangibles. It's how you play together. All those things. We don't know that those guys are the same. We don't know that those
flow
guys
doesn't matter.
Well, I know one thing: they don't have the same mentality. They're not as calm as Jalen Hurts. There's a common effect that he has on that team, and those guys don't have that. So while we want to talk about the stats, that's cool, and I get you want to make that argument, but let's 15 people, Matthew Stafford. No, I am not going to ever let anyone sit here and say that Matthew Stafford would have won.
You're going to let me say it because I'm going to say it.
No. Well, it's blasphemy. It's garbage.
It's not.
Yeah, he doesn't get enough credit for the intangibles. The one thing I'll take away from the stats is I think Jalen Hurts has the best resolve mentally out of almost all quarterbacks in the league, right? Okay. If you think about what he's been through his career from college. I'm just saying,
argue like Josh
he gets doubted every year, and he still getting doubted this year because people want to cherry pick the stats. Okay, he only
you brought this topic up, Godfrey. I'm just responding to it.
I'm 220 yards. Well, is it his fault that there was a short field? He's playing from the 50.
No, but other good quarterbacks would have been able to take advantage of a short field. Bro, I don't know what you guys are watching this year.
I don't know what you're watching. I don't know what you're watching.
What you're watching.
Yeah, what are you watching?
Bro, he did not play great down the stretch at all. By any means.
When you say
he didn't play great in Green Bay. He didn't play great versus LA.
When he just got back from a concussion. Oh, wow, what a shot. Who said he should have played the end of the regular season?
Bro. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I'm saying they had the best roster in football. And you're making it like a team
that was up
34-0 with a different quarterback that would have lost the football.
They're not 34-0 with a different quarterback.
I'm not saying they would have won it by blowout. I'm saying they would have won the football game. They were up 34-0 with one quarterback, but another quarterback that's just as good, they wouldn't have won the game.
Not with Matthew Stafford, no.
I gave you 3 guys that I think
Stafford almost beat the Eagles in Philadelphia.
Who cares?
But he didn't.
What does it have to do with him playing Kansas City?
He didn't.
What does it have to do with him playing Kansas City? Nada. Nothing.
He won a Super Bowl already.
It doesn't even make sense.
He won a Super Bowl already with the worst roster.
With the team. That doesn't make sense.
He won a Super Bowl already with a worse roster.
Whoop de do.
Yeah, exactly. It proves my point. With a better roster, he would have won the Super Bowl.
It doesn't prove your point. Who did they play in that Super Bowl? Who did they play in that Super Bowl?
They played the Bengals.
With no offensive line or no defense. But you're not talking about that, are you? Nah. Let's talk about
Adrian. What about Adrian Whitworth? That he had
bring up the whole situation.
Yeah, I mean,
anybody would have been at Cincinnati. Cincinnati had no line and no defense. Come on, Gene. You better than that. Come on, man.
Bro, listen, if you have that much green goggles on,
it's not green goggles.
It is green
goggles, bro.
No,
you guys sound stupid.
It's not green goggles. Maybe you got a little Hurts hating you. Maybe that's
the thing. I have him as the 5th best quarterback in football.
Well, I'm not talking about his ranking. That's all the conversation. I'm talking about this particular game.
15 quarterbacks would have won that football game. Absolutely.
So Dak Prescott would have won.
I'll tell you right now. Caleb Williams would have won that football game. Saying it like it is.
So I sound dumb, but you're saying a rookie quarterback who's they've never made it to a Super Bowl but won if hypothetically got there. Right. Okay. Yeah.
They were up 34-0. Their offense was stagnant. Stop lying to yourself. That defense dominated the football game.
The pass to Jalen was 34. They had he did score a touchdown, a rushing touchdown. That was important, right?
So he scored a rushing touchdown after Jahan Dotson landed at the 1 yard line. You don't think they would have scored on 1st and goal from the 1 yard line? Jalen's rushing touchdown did it again.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You guys.
All I know is I see people try to do the tush push and they can't do it in the playoffs like a Josh Allen.
You don't need to do the tush push. The Eagles do the tush push because they do it better than anybody. But if you have 1st and goal with the best offensive line in football, a good quarterback, and Saquon Barkley from the inch-yard line, you're scoring a touchdown, bro. I'm sorry. Don't sound like you never watched football before.
Listen, the people have never had a goal line stand and ended up with 3 points.
Quarterback is no threat that they're going to get in there. No, that doesn't happen.
1st and goal from the half-inch yard line with the best offensive line in football and the best running back in football and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Yes.
What happened in the game What happened in the game when Jalen Hurts wasn't there? Kenny Pickett was there, who's not a mobile quarterback.
Kenny Pickett is not Jalen Hurts. Exactly. I get that. Kenny Pickett's not a top 32 quarterback.
Okay, but his inability to be mobile.
And he still scored 34 points.
Made him focus
and he still scored 34 points.
Made them focus on Saquon, and it took away his ability to run because they were able to focus on him in the run game.
They still scored 34 points.
They took away his ability to run after the first quarter.
It was a great team.
Did they not? Scored 34 points.
You put one of these other immobile.
You asked what happened without Kenny Pickett, without Jalen Hurts. They scored 41 points in one game and 34 points in another. That's what happened.
So you're telling me his legs and his ability to extend the play didn't make a difference in the game script. The game flow didn't make a difference. Those were just naked plays.
Game flow matters. I'm telling you that defense was going to beat that offense with a lot of different quarterbacks because that defense absolutely better. Yeah, Mahomes had 30 yards in the first. Keep waving your hand, bro. Mahomes had 30 yards in the first half, bro. 30 yards. They had a pick six. They had an interception at the 10-yard line. Like it wasn't like he was doing any miraculous plays. The AJ Brown touchdown, he was 5 yards away from any player on the field.
Scored 34 points.
How about that throw where it got called back and it shouldn't have been a penalty, but they called it anyway. They erased that.
And we had two penalties go our way too, Godfrey.
We did.
So you can say what you want to say. But
I'm just talking about quarterback performance specifically, not penalties overall.
Okay, so we would have been done that drive in which we scored a touchdown when they took a shot at Saquon Barkley after the play and they gave us a 15-yard penalty. We also would have been.
Were they not up 10-0 before?
We also would have been off the field on the Dallas Goedert play on 3rd and 13 where they gave him a penalty on Dallas Goedert. That was a bad call. That was two drives. That
just the recall. You mean the makeup call?
Sure, that's fine.
So, but they were up 10-0 before the defense
and not
scored.
Have the other.
They were up 10 points before the defense scored the 7 points with the pick six. Right? Okay. It was 10-0. The defense did their job, and Jalen did what he was supposed to. But I just don't understand how you can't recognize the mobility factor in the performance of the quarterback.
I do recognize the mobility factor. I don't.
Then how do you say 15 guys could do that? All 15 aren't as mobile.
Man, whatever, Gene. That's some
how? Like,
I don't agree with you. Whatever, Gene.
3.
I don't agree with you.
3.
Oh, I have a different opinion than yours. Oh well, get over it.
3. I gave you 3.
Yourself, dude.
I'm fine. I'm giving you a sports take and I'm giving you an opinion and I'm backing it up by facts. Stop being so salty about it, bro.
Throwing things out there and you're like, oh,
we ever have a debate.
You're taking a small piece and you're saying, oh, if we throw another quarterback in because this happened 3 years ago, then this will happen. That's the kind of stuff you're doing. That's not facts. That's bull crap, Gene.
There's no such thing about facts in a hypothetical argument, Cool. I'm sorry. It's a hypothetical argument.
Stop trying to say you're throwing out facts because you're not.
He brought it up. I'm giving you a response.
Just keep it hypothetical.
Hypothetical talk.
You're just one trying to use facts to prove a hypothetical point.
I'm just saying you can't. You game plan differently when the quarterback is not mobile.
That's the beauty of sports, Cool. That's the beauty of sports. You ain't got to agree with me.
It's cool.
Good.
I'm just saying there's 3 guys I admit right off the bat that would. So you're saying there's 12 other guys, or I would say 15. So there's 11 other guys. But the mobility is the biggest factor for me. If Jalen wasn't mobile, then we're having a different conversation here.
Okay.
And I just don't see guys like Baker and Jared Goff being able to be mobile to the point where they can extend the play and extend the drive. And that made a difference. I mean, but I don't see how that part gets ignored. And if you're
it's not ignored, Godfrey.
Of course it is.
You're acting like he's not the only mobile quarterback in football, Godfrey.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying for guys that don't have that ability, it's easier for you to game plan as a defense is how you're going to attack them.
Yes, and the Chiefs played against all these teams this year that had quarterbacks that were mobile, that were not mobile, that they could game plan against, that they couldn't game plan against, and teams had success against the Chiefs. They didn't just obliterate everybody.
Because that guy I brought up lost to him.
A lot of teams lost to him.
You can't just judge it by turnovers too, right? Like if he can't extend the drive because he doesn't have the ability to run and do that, and his only option is to pass or an outlet, and he can't do that because the defense covers it, then doesn't he have less ability to accomplish the goal of getting 10 yards to the next line?
I don't know why I'm even debating with you guys. It's not going to change your mind. I'm giving you my opinion. I'm giving you my opinion. You're giving me yours.
I'll just say 15 guys. That's a lot, man. That's crazy.
15 guys. It could be more.
That's insane.
It's not insane. It's not insane.
It's insane. I mean, people.
I'm sorry that the two Eagles fans that can sit up on here and tell me that Jalen Hurts is one of two quarterbacks that would have won the Super Bowl with this roster.
I'm not saying it's one or two. I'm
you
saying
did. You said Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen wouldn't win Super Bowls.
I said Lamar.
Who's the other one?
So let's correct what I actually said, not what you wanted to hear, but what I actually said. I said the problem with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson is they find a way to lose to Kansas City. So until they can get over that, they wouldn't win. If they can get over that, they would win. Lamar Jackson did not have a bad team, but when he goes up against Kansas City, he doesn't play well. Could he have won with this team? Possibly, but he had to get on his own mental stuff. So let's make sure that when you're quoting me, quote me correctly. That's all I ask.
Bro, I will literally clip what you said that Lamar Jackson would have won this game because he couldn't beat the Chiefs. I'll quote it for you.
Mentally,
I will literally quote it for you. That's what you said.
Make sure you also clip the part where I said, but if he can get over that, that's when he would win.
So make sure you add that. Lamar is the inverse, right? Yeah, Lamar is mobile enough.
Put that part while you're clipping.
So what quarterbacks would have won with this roster outside Jalen Hurts?
Mahomes.
Okay, Burrow, Mahomes.
I think Allen would have won.
Okay. Who said no?
I question Lamar because Lamar is mobile. But
Lamar's questionable, so 3.5.
He because the problem is he lives in the middle of the field. Teams take away part of the field from him in the playoffs.
Okay,
you see it every year.
So 3.5, got it. That's it.
Yeah, we have to acknowledge the fact that some players don't play well against some teams, and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in the playoffs have not played well against Kansas City. So
and that's fair.
Unless they can get over that hump.
Who on
Burrow has?
Who on
Burrow's played well against them?
Who on Baltimore can compare to what AJ Brown and Devontae Smith can do to a defense?
Oh man, that's my problem with Lamar. I think receivers don't go there and flourish.
Who on Buffalo can compare to what AJ Brown?
Pretty good, but he doesn't have a guy with him. But Lamar did a great job all season of throwing the ball to everybody. Rashard Bateman had a great season. So all season Lamar Jackson did a great job of throwing the ball around and everything. And he may have been in the championship game if his Pro Bowl tight end or Pro Bowl caliber tight end decided not to fumble in the middle of the field and then drop a ball.
Correct.
But he did.
Okay.
Allen did not have as good as receivers, but that's why I'm saying Allen, I think, would have won.
Okay, so you gave me 3.5. Cool. How many quarterbacks win a Super Bowl with this roster? It's Godfrey's question. I'm just responding to it. How many super quarterbacks win a Super Bowl with this roster?
Definitely, I would think Burrow could have won.
Okay.
I think Mahomes could have won.
Okay.
As I said, Allen and Jackson, my issue with those two guys is, do they have the talent to do it? Absolutely. They play a similar style, but the problem is they don't win against Kansas City in the playoffs. So if you don't win against a team in the playoffs, it's hard for me to definitively say that you could win.
Okay.
But if they can get over whatever that hump is, yeah, those will be two other guys because, again, they play a similar style of quarterback.
I'm just asking you who would win. You gave me 2 so far. Is there a third?
No, that's his guys. You can count 3. You can do Lamar Allen. You count him as 1.
Like a half for both of them?
Well, you gave me a half for Lamar, so that's what I'm saying. You do a half for both of them.
You said maybe Lamar. I just don't know how you can watch Lamar Jackson play football with 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and you could watch what he did this year, and you could watch the way he came back versus Buffalo in the second half, and if it wasn't for his Pro Bowl tight end fumbling the ball and dropping the ball in the corner of the end zone.
I'm not forgetting the first half he had.
He didn't have a bad first half.
There was throws he made that were not great. They take away parts of the field.
Yes, you're right. He missed 2 throws. You're right.
Well, listen.
Absolutely. I watched the game.
If you don't
Jalen Hurts made a bad throw in the first half also.
He absolutely did. But here's the thing. They're structured differently. Okay. And I'm just saying the way he plays the game, you can force him. I mean, listen, you talk about Brian Flores all the time. People have given the roadmap how to do him. I mean, have we not seen it?
I don't agree with Purdy. I don't agree with Russell Wilson. I don't agree with Purdy. I don't agree with Russell Wilson. Probably not Aaron Rodgers because he's a terrible leader. So that's 3. I don't agree with Dak Prescott. That's 4.
I don't agree with Goff either.
I can see that. I don't agree with Goff. That's 5. So what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I don't agree with
9. Yeah, you might be right. It might be 10. It might be 10.
I don't agree with Stroud either because Stroud had one pretty solid year. This year he took a step back, so we got to see what he is long term.
You know, man, it's just funny. Like I think Jaden Daniels has a bright future. I like Jaden Daniels, but I hear people like, oh, I'll definitely take Daniels over Hurts. I'm like, okay,
I'm not taking Daniels either.
Oh, sure. Like, and I heard people say that same shit last year, and then what changed? Right? CJ Stroud had an off year. He was okay, but you watch games, and like there's certain games where he just couldn't get it going. Injuries happen, sure. You know, Diggs got injured. You know, things of that nature. CJ Stroud, he'll run, but he's not that type of quarterback, right? He's not. He says it himself.
You got to look at some of these guys. It takes more than having one strong year or living off of a reputation. In the case of guys like Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, there's no way they should be on that list. There's no way.
I don't disagree with that. What you just said.
Well, he's
Stroud, like I said, if he comes out and he shows us in a couple of years that he could be more consistent. Daniels too. You can't put to me. You take a guy that's been in the league for 5 years, been in a Super Bowl twice, could have been an MVP in both of those. CJ, if you put Stroud behind this line and stuff, he's still going to make bad reads because he still needs to learn more. But you're not going to take any of that into account. You're just going to say, oh, if he's behind this line, like, here's the thing.
I just don't think it's as simplistic as slams putting a quarterback behind. I just don't think it's plug and play as much people would think it is.
It's not just.
I just don't think it is. I disagree with that. I mean, you know, Mahomes. Everybody would agree on that one across the board. Burrow,
his receiving core was there. He wasn't having a great year.
Yeah, I mean,
they hurt week 1.
Weren't they 5-0?
That brings a question about team and construction. How concerned are we about Kellen Moore leaving? And we touched on it earlier.
I have zero. Only concern I have is who they hired at offensive coordinator.
Do they bring?
Because I mean, when you're bringing in guys, you're just elevating guys. We tried this last time.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work. So is Nick gonna say this time? Okay, you're gonna call the offense. I'm gonna keep my hands off. I may jump in a few plays and say, hey, this or there, because I want him to let the coordinator call. And if it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, fire him. But I want him to let the coordinator call the plays and do their job.
Well, when I look at
the guy that kind of helps the whole entirety of the team. So if this guy can call plays and be that guy, then it's not that much of an issue. But we won't know that until we get into the season next year.
You think Frank Reich comes on as a special advisor? People are wishing for that, but I don't see him.
I think if he wanted to be here, he would just came and been the OC.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's a terrible move promoting from within. This is the same guy that was on the same staff with Brian Johnson being the offensive coordinator. I don't understand.
What was his position when Johnson was on the team?
Passing game coordinator, bro.
Okay.
And that's even more embarrassing. You didn't even get the running game coordinator. You got the passing game coordinator to be your offensive coordinator. Like this still, I can't. The Eagles making this decision is so friggin', and it's such a Nick Sirianni decision. And I know exactly what they did, right? Kellen Moore went to New Orleans. He was taking some staff. He took our quarterbacks coach. He took our run game specialist, and he didn't want to lose another guy that was on his team, and he promoted him before. It was a panic move, and they're going to hire new coaches. They already plucked one from Miami. It's actually a good coach to be their quarterbacks coach. He worked with Sirianni in Indianapolis. He actually called plays the year Frank Wright was fired, so he called plays the rest of the year after Frank left. So I think him being our quarterbacks coach will help, but it's a bad move. I'm sorry, it's a bad move.
I don't really know if it's a bad move or not. I do know that organizationally, I don't see Lurie and the Howie Roseman combo usually make 2 mistakes in a row of the same kind without success.
Was the guy not on the roster in the same coaching room when they couldn't figure out how to beat the blitz?
Yeah,
they're running friggin' stick routes to beat the blitz. I'll never forget that end of last year.
It was awful. But I mean, was that his design, or is he just doing his role? Like, you can't say that he's responsible for that because he's present. I mean, I don't know enough about the guy to say he's going to stink. I hope he doesn't as an Eagles fan. I do understand the trepidation of Eagles fans looking at promoting from within and how it went last time. I totally get that. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So I get the uneasiness about it. This is the negative of having a championship team. You're bound to lose coaches, right? I mean, it's going to happen, you know. And the funny thing is the way it played out. I didn't think Kellen Moore would get an offer. And let's be honest, Kellen Moore got an offer because he was the last man standing, not because he was the most sought after. Aaron Glenn would have been there if they would have got rid of Mickey Loomis, but they didn't want to do that. So other people got hired elsewhere. And the Chiefs' job was not an attractive job. I feel bad for Kellen Moore because I think, at one side you got to say, well, I have to take my shot when it's given to me, right? And maybe that's what he's doing. I can't blame him for that. The other side of me says, dude, you should have chilled out for another year, pulled a Ben Johnson and said, I'm not going to there and see if something pops up the next year, right? The one thing that I think culturally that could help the Eagles better than it did 2 years ago is when I heard Jordan Mailata interviewed about Kellen Moore, and he said, the Saints got a good one. What did you like most about him? He talked about how he would take input from the team, listen to them about the running plays, and kind of help them find the way of the identity of the offense, which we saw that kind of form more and more strongly as the year went on, right? And I think, if that guy takes that same approach, I don't know if they're going to really hurt that bad. I just, can it happen? Sure. I think Brian Johnson being a family friend kind of had a negative consequence to it too, because maybe Jalen and Brian, just their relationship dynamic as far as working together, might have not been as good. I mean, that could have been a problem too. I mean, listen, I've worked with family members, friends, and people that, you got to have to give them a work respect because you don't have that personal relationship with them. And it's definitely a different working relationship. You take more umbrages when it's your family and your friends. You do. My guess.
I just want to say this. When we're trying to, and hopefully the goal is to try to repeat, right? Not saying it definitely will because injuries, a lot of things happen. But if you're trying to repeat, you want to have a guy who's confident in saying, all right, this is a guy that we feel like we can put in and he's going to maintain or expand on what we already have. I don't know if this is the guy. There are better candidates out there. CJ said in the comments. So this is the guy.
Who do we move out on? Who do we lose out on though?
And
offensive
we only got about 7 minutes, so I'm not going to take the time to try to say, oh, we lost out on this person or that person. But there are other candidates out there that I feel like would have been better, and I think we could have done a better search. But I think it was I want to keep him, and we're scared that if we don't promote him, that maybe he'll go as well. So
we're going to find out.
Bobby Slowick, Frank Wright. I mean, you want me to name any?
But you want Slowick coming off a horrible season with that guy, and he couldn't get along with the quarterback. You want that guy? That's a retread at that point. Like, what wouldn't you? If I'm going to get someone, give me someone that's coming off some success at least.
Can I ask you a question real quick? If you're 2 years of an offensive coordinator, and the first year as offensive coordinator, you win. The quarterback as a rookie wins offensive rookie of the year, one of the greatest rookie seasons ever. And then in the second season, you bring in Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon and guys that have notably been outspoken people. And CJ Stroud and Bobby Slowick have issues with CJ. I know. No, you don't know. You're still a kid. I'm trying to help you get over your sophomore slump. And you think that Slowick's the issue? Obviously, they can't get rid of CJ Stroud, bro. Like CJ Stroud, they just drafted him. He won offensive rookie of the year. Like, you think he's just a retread? He just was the offensive coordinator for a team that overachieved last year or 2 years ago and won offensive rookie of the year, and then followed that up with another division win and a playoff win.
Bobby so highly thought of that all he got was senior passing game coordinator.
And that's why I wouldn't put Stroud in the conversation to say that he's a guy that would have done better than Jake because of the things you're just pointing out. Because one of the things is you have to be able to understand, I may feel that this way is the best, but because it's a team, I'm going to do what I feel is best for the team. And it may not be what's best for me individually. And that's a maturity thing. These young guys, not there yet. And Hurts is only 2 years older than Jayden Daniels, for instance, but been in the league 5 years. So he's had that time to understand and be like, okay, well, this is what it takes to win.
Bobby Slowick's situation points to why Kellen Moore had to take this job. What happens this year?
Right.
And then he's not in a position to get a coach because now he's not even an OC. He's a senior passing game coordinator. So he's double demoted.
Well, that's the thing. Instead of when they're there. Go ahead, Jim.
Instead of saying that this is anonymous Texans player, I just want to change the name to who I think it would set it. I don't think we had a true identity of what the F we wanted to do. An anonymous Texans player on offense. Stephon Diggs. When teams would take away what we wanted to do, we didn't have answers for it. Another anonymous player said, Joe Mixon. I'm just making it up. I obviously could be wrong. But last year, when they had Nico Collins and Tank Dell and Bobby Slowick and CJ Stroud, he won offensive rookie of the year. You brought in Stephon Diggs, a notorious loudmouth that's never happy anywhere, and Joe Mixon, who punched a woman in college, and all of a sudden you have issues with offensive identity. Sorry, guys. I don't think
Well, to be fair, Diggs was having a pretty decent season until he got hurt. It's not like he got hurt. He didn't disappear.
Receiver. No one said he was a good receiver. He's a dickhead.
Yeah,
but I'm telling you, he's not a good. I'm not
saying dickheads can play football too. If they still
right, and they're also awful for your locker room.
Yeah, but the locker room wasn't the reason why Diggs wasn't there. It's because he got hurt.
Oh, and by the way, I want to make Cool pissed off one more time. So I'm going to add one more thing on this podcast in the last 3 minutes just to piss him off because I know it will. Because I know you guys seen the AJ Brown tweet on Wednesday when it took 2 days for him to get over to be a Super Bowl champion.
I forgot about that.
What really gets him up is dominating defensive backs, and he would rather be the guy in which the offense was centered around. And I read that tweet the same way half the people read it.
Did he say he wanted the offense centered around him?
Bro, I'll read the tweet out for you. You tell me what.
I don't think he said he wanted the offense centered around him.
Did you read the tweet?
Who didn't hear the tweet?
I got you. I'm going to read it. Hold on. Let's get it right here. About Super Bowl win. Here we go. Candidly explain. Here we go.
Hurts wasn't enthusiastic about the hire. He's not enthusiastic about 99% of things. Everybody cherry picks this man's emotions.
Hurts wasn't enthusiastic when he won the Super Bowl. I mean,
give me a break with that. Everybody, they want to be like, oh yeah, oh I love it. That's not Jalen Hurts, man.
After a few days, I've had time to reflect on being a champion. I tried to feel everyone made it seem to be a champion, and unfortunately, it was short-lived. 2 days to be exact. I've never been a champion at the highest level before. I thought my hard work would be justified by winning it all. It wasn't. My thrill for the game comes when I dominate. It's the hunt that does it for me. It's when the defensive back drops his head and surrenders because he can't F with me. The intense battles, early mornings, late nights, sacrifices. I love putting smiles on people's faces. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't what I thought it would be. It's the journey I love most. Back to work. That's the exact tweet.
CJ, I did see the.
I don't have a problem with that because you're supposed to have desire. If you want to read into it, that's cool. That's just speculation. What he's saying, from my interpretation, of course, is yeah, we won, but now I'm not like, oh, we won a Super Bowl, so I'm happy now. Yeah, my career, I can just go chase the money. I don't have to worry about winning no more. It's just worried about my stats. No, he's saying I want to win more. I want to do more. I want to dominate. He knows he didn't dominate this year. Part of that was some things that he did too. There were times where there were plays that maybe he didn't make. Maybe he misread with Jalen Hurts. Some things that they could have worked on for him to have a better season. But in the day, he's a Super Bowl champion, and he wants to do it again. So I don't have a problem with the statement. And I mean, it's going to be misconstrued by people, and that's fine. And maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but that's how I see it.
I respect that. And I think Cottrell and Bill had very similar stances as you had, and I get it. I 100% get it. I'm just telling you what I read it. And do not be surprised. I promise you, do not be surprised. I'm going to say it here now that if in April, right around draft time, you see AJ Brown has been traded to the New England Patriots. I'm serious. You think I'm crazy?
No, I mean, listen, if that happens, I mean, you do have to point to that there's a relationship problem at that point.
Do not be surprised if it happens. Guys, we're at our hour. I just wanted to piss Cool off one more time.
Listen, all I know is I'm leaning on the side of where Cool is. I just feel like receivers in general are like that. They want to dominate the game, and it's a position that's quarterback dependent. So the frustration comes. This is why a guy like AJ Brown will never play in Baltimore.
Right.
All right. Well, wrap us up. We'll be gone for at least a month. We'll come back for free agency a month from now.
Let's pray to the free agency guys that it's things that we want to happen. That's all I got to say on that one. But guys, thanks for tuning in. Been a fun show. Eagles are the champs. Enjoy yourself until the offseason, and then we'll start all over again. But guess what? All the other football fan teams out there, you could suck it. With that being said,
it's her season. We hunted.
We're hunting. With that being said, me, Cool, Gene, not saying goodbye, just saying take a birds deep.
Okay, can I give a 5-second counterfeit green? Everybody who didn't believe in the Eagles, counterfeit green.
There you go.